If you own a house already but want to buy your first investment property, then this video is for you. You're probably worried, how do I qualify for a rental property if I already have a mortgage under my name? In most loans, when you buy a house to live in, they look at how much debt you have and compare that to how much money you make every month. And they use that to help figure out how much you can afford for a house payment every month. And then they use that house payment to see how much you can buy, what the house price could be. This is known as your debt to income ratio. And most banks do not want your debts to be 40% or higher of your income. So if you make $10,000 a month, most banks will not want your whole house payment to be more than $4,000. And that includes your mortgage, taxes, insurance, PMI, and HOA fees. Debt to income ratio is used for conventional loans. And what they do is they protect the bank from giving you a loan to make sure that usually you can pay the loan back as long as your job stays the same and nothing changes in your financial situation. Now this is where you get stuck because you already have a mortgage and probably like most people, you maxed out your debt to income ratio in order to qualify for a really nice house in your area. So how in the world can you get a loan for a rental property if you got no space left without making a lot more money or paying down a large sum of your debt? It's not like you got $1 million lying around to buy it cash. So let's break down 3 different options. First, let's use a fix and flip loan to buy a property that needs work. A fix and flip loan is a short-term loan with a higher interest rate that's meant for you to buy a property quickly, fix it up, and then either refinance or sell it quickly. Most mortgages are 5, 7, 10, 15 or 30 years long. And if you're going to buy a rental property, I almost always recommend you get a 30-year mortgage. This way you can actually cash flow more on the property. But these fix and flip loans are like 13-month, 19-month, and 24-month loans. They're super short because they're super high interest and not meant for you to hold on to 30 years. They're meant for you to just buy a property quickly, fix it up, and get out. If you're flipping, you sell the property, and from the profits you make, you end up paying down that first loan. But in this case, you want to make it a rental property, you buy a property, you fix it up using this loan, and then you'll refinance out using another loan, which we'll talk about in step 2. These loans are interest only, meaning every month you're only going to pay interest payments. You're not going to touch any of the original principal. The original principal gets paid down when you actually pay off the loan. But if it's higher interest and you have to pay it back quickly, why would anyone use this? Well, there's a few reasons why investors like me and other people use these loans almost every single day and prefer to use these loans over other types. The first reason is that you don't need to decrease your debts or increase your income or even show proof of income to get any of these loans. You just need a good property. This loan does not look at your financial situation. Instead, it looks at how good of a deal your investment property is. So they measure this by looking at how much you're buying the property for, how much the work is going to cost to get done to fix it up, and what it'll be worth once it's fixed up. In a normal conventional loan, a bank would look at your personal financial situation and be like, this guy makes a lot of money and doesn't have much in debt, so we could give him the loan because he'll be able to pay us back, right? In fix and flip loans, they're like, this guy bought the house for so cheap and it's worth so much once fixed up and it doesn't need that much work. So even if this guy doesn't pay us back, we could sell the property and we'll probably make our money back. So I'll give you an example of a property that I'm working on right now. I bought this duplex for $60,000 and it needs about $54,000 worth of work. So our total cost is $114,000. Now the property, once fixed up, it got appraised for $139,500. Lima One Capital, who's the sponsor of this video and who I use for these fix and flip loans, they're going to give me 90% of the loan to cost ratio and 75% of the loan to value ratio. If you remember, debt to income ratio is a way for banks to protect themselves from giving them a loan to someone who's too risky, and so this way someone could pay it back. Loan to cost ratio and loan to value ratio are ways that companies like Lima One look at these types of loans to make sure that they're not making a risky investment. Because they're a lender. They make money by giving it out and making interest on it, not by losing it. So your loan to cost ratio is just your total loan amount divided by the total cost of the project. That ratio must be less than 90%. So you take 0.9, that's equal to the total loan amount divided by 114,000. So our max loan amount, according to the loan to cost ratio, would be $102,600. Now they have a second ratio, loan to value ratio, which measures the size of the mortgage compared to what the house will be worth once it's fixed up. The lower the number, the less risky it is, because if something goes wrong, they could sell the house and make a big profit. So the formula is loan to value equals your total loan amount divided by the projected appraisal value of the house. They want that to be 75% or less. So you take your mortgage amount, divide that by 139,500, and that equals 0.75. So that means the max mortgage amount, according to loan to value, could be $104,625. So now we have two amounts, the loan to cost ratio and the loan to value ratio of 102 and then 104,000. In order to protect themselves, the lender will use the lower amount of $102,000 to protect themselves just in case if something goes wrong. So the max they will loan me is $102,600 according to the loan to cost and loan to value ratios. Now see, this was totally based off of how much the property is going to make me, not how much money I make per year at a job or in my business. I could make $10,000 $20,000 and it wouldn't matter. The second reason why you would use these types of loans is because you could actually buy properties under LLCs. When buying rental properties, it's important to buy properties under LLCs because if a tenant sues you under an LLC, they can't go after your house or your car or your personal stocks. They can only go after what's under the LLC. But if you buy a property with a conventional loan, typically you're going to need to use your name, which means that if you do get sued, you're screwed. Now it's important to mention here that if you're starting out, these loans will be recourse, meaning you will have to personally guarantee these loans to the lender. So if something goes wrong with the loan, you will have to pay it back personally. Once you get 5 fix and flip loans under your belt under a certain period of time, then Lima One will give you non-recourse loans, which means if something goes wrong with the loan, they can't go after you personally, only under the LLC. The third reason is that you can actually get funds for the rehab of a property. Now they don't give them to you up front, but here's how it works. In the loan amount you borrow, there's funds reserved for rehab. In the example of my property, it was $54,000, which almost half the price of the loan is just for the rehab. So when your contractor gets work done, let's say you don't got any money. So you ask the lender to do a draw request. So let's say the contractor did $20,000 worth of work. They did the bedrooms and bathrooms. You tell the lender, hey, the bedrooms and bathrooms are done. Contractor's requesting $20,000. They'll send an inspector out there. The inspector will look at the house and say, yep, the bedrooms and bathrooms are done. Then they'll give you the $20,000. Then you pay off the contractor. Sometimes the contractor wants to get paid quick and you will have to pay him out of your pocket and then the lender will pay you. But the order in which you do it is kind of up to you and the contractor's agreement. The fourth reason why you'd use a fix and flip loan is that you get a lower down payment. Because there's no set down payment on these loans, you can get lower down payments than you would normally get for if you bought a conventional loan. I got a 10% down fix and flip loan where I only needed $13,500 to actually buy a house. How much you put down depends on your experience, your credit score, how good of a deal it is, by looking at how much the property is worth now, how much work needs to get done, and what it'll be worth once it's fixed. The fifth reason is that you can close quickly. Sellers want to close quickly. They want to get their money back. And a lot of times loans take 30, 60, 90 days to close, but fix and flip loans can close within days or sometimes even weeks. And if you can close quicker, a lot of times you can offer lower on a property because it's more attractive to get their money quicker, which means you make more money because you're getting the property for less. If you're interested in using fix and flip loans for a rental property that's going to need some work, click the link in the description to go to Lima One's website and apply, and you'll speak to someone who'll go through their loan programs and give you an idea if you can use these loans and on what kind of properties you should be using them on. This is exactly who I use for my fix and flip loans. And if you use them for fix and flip loans this summer, they'll give you $750 back for your appraisal fee if you close with them. That's huge. That's extra money in your pocket that you could use for property number 2. Second option, if you own a home and how you could buy a rental property, is to buy it under a DSCR loan. DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. To put it simply, it's a loan where the rent is covered by the debt service. The debt service is your mortgage, taxes, insurance, and HOA. The rent is whatever the fair market rent is for a property like yours that you're buying. They're looking for a ratio of at least 1.25 in order to say that this property is profitable enough we can give you a loan. Again, no income needed, no looking at your debts needed. So I'll give you an example with one of my properties that I closed with Lima One. In July 2022, I bought a triplex for $95,000. It was 7.65% interest rate. My monthly mortgage payment is $539.23, and my taxes and insurance are $187.72. I have no HOA on this property, so my total debt service is $726.95 per month. Now this property is a triplex, 3 units total. My rent is $15.25 across all units. So the formula is DSCR equals rent divided by debt service. I take $15.25 divided by $726.95, and that is a 2.097 DSCR, which is greater than 1.25, which means they'll give me the loan because it's a profitable property. If my rent was only $700, that would make my DSCR 0.96, which is less than 1.25, and they wouldn't give it to me. It's that simple. The other things you need to know for this loan is that there's a 660 credit score minimum. You can also close under an LLC, which again is huge, and you'll likely need 20 to 25% down for a loan like this. But that's normal across any rental property loan. The huge benefit of these loans that I don't hear anyone else really talking about is that the approval process is just so much easier. When you apply with a conventional loan, they're gonna ask for your last 2 years of tax returns, W-2 statements, your mortgage statements, your car payments, your utility bills, out the wazoo. They ask you for everything. For these loans, you don't need all these docs. You need a couple docs when you sign up, so this way they have information about you. But as long as you got a decent credit score, a good down payment, and a good deal, then you're good to go. And the best part is, let's say you want to do an Airbnb and not a rental property. They have DSCR loans for these too. The only difference is you need a minimum 25% down and a 1.5 DSCR instead of 1.25. It's not my specialty, but I know a lot of people that want to do that. Again, if you need these kinds of loans, click the link in the description. You can work with Lima One, apply right away, and get tons of information about how you can use these loans to start investing in real estate now. They're really awesome to work with. It's exactly who I use for my DSCR loans. Now, the last option, if you own a home and you want to buy your first rental property, the next thing you could do is look at using a HELOC or a cash out refinance on the house that you already own. Now, this won't be an option for everyone. It depends on when you bought it, if you did any work to the property, how your market's doing, and all that. What you need to know is how much equity you have in your home. In order to calculate how much equity you have in your home, you need to know a few things. You need to know what you have left on your mortgage and what the house is worth today. Let me give you an example of a property I own. I bought it, my first triplex that I ever bought. I bought it for $195,000. Today it's worth $300,000, just about. I currently have $168,000 left on my mortgage. So the formula for equity is what the property is worth today minus what you owe on your mortgage. So $300,000 minus $168. That means I have $132,000 of equity in this property. That's money that I could be using to buy the next property. Now, banks will likely only give you 80% of what the house is worth today in a new loan to make sure that they're not being too risky by giving you too much. So to figure out how much money I could take out, I would take 80% of $300,000, which is $240,000, and subtract $168 from $240 because that's how much money I have to pay off the first mortgage. So that will leave me with $72,000 that I would get tax-free if I refinance this property. Or I could do a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, and that acts as a credit card on the equity of the value of the house that I have. So I could get access to a line of credit of up to $72,000 on this house to use that to pull money out to buy a property and then pay it off once I'm done. Now the caveat with a HELOC is that it's been really hard for me to find anyone that'll provide you a loan without W-2 income, so you will need that for that. And if you use a cash out refinance on a personal home, you're also gonna need to use your conventional loan. So this will only work if you have any space left in your DTI to pull out some extra cash. If you owned a house cash, and meaning you had no mortgage on it and you have a good job, then you could use a cash out refinance or a HELOC a lot of times to pull the money out and use that to buy more property. But for most people, if your debt to income ratio can't take on much more and you can only take a little bit of equity out, then what you can do is use this money as a down payment. When you combine it with a fix and flip loan and a DSCR loan, you take a cash out refinance, you increase your costs just a little bit, you use that money inside your house as the down payment, and you combine that with a fix and flip loan or a DSCR loan to buy a property. The only scenario where you would not want to do this if you have tons of cash, and by refinancing it'll increase your rate so much that your costs will go up so high and it's not worth you taking out the money. It's really important that you take action now to buy your first rental property, because by having money in the market longer, the more you'll make in the long run. You can start a lot sooner. Instead of having to pay off your debts or wait till you get a huge raise from your job or get a new one, you can start off a lot sooner using Lima One Capital and their loans, a fix and flip loan, a bridge loan, or a DSCR loan. Click the link in the description below to apply now. And if you want to learn exactly how much money I make from my rental properties and see these loans in action down to the penny, then click the video on screen right now and I'll see you over there.